Welcome to this deep dive. Today we're going to crack open a book that's part manifesto,
Oh, yeah.
part tech guide, and totally ahead of its time.
Mm-hmm.
It's Ted Nelson's Computer Lib Dream Machines,
Yes.
first edition from 1974.
It's a fascinating read,
Oh, absolutely.
especially considering this was written before the personal computer as we know it even existed.
Yeah, and the format is so interesting.
Okay.
The copies were actually printed sideways,
Yeah.
so you'd flip it over to read the other half.
Right.
One side is Computer Lib, a call for computer liberation,
Right.
and the other is Dream Machines,
Yes.
all about the potential of computers for creativity.
It's wild.
It's wild. You practically need a compass to navigate it,
Yeah.
but that's part of the charm. I think
Three.
Nelson was already dreaming up things like hypertext
Mm-hmm.
and interactive media when most people thought computers were just for number crunching.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's dive in. What's the core message Nelson's trying to get across here?
Well, I think fundamentally Nelson believed that computers were tools for creativity and freedom,
Okay.
not just for corporations and institutions.
Interesting.
He wanted to democratize technology, put the power of computing in the hands of everyday people.
Okay.
Artists, writers, students.
Mm-hmm.
He saw it as a way to break down hierarchies and empower individuals.
That's amazing when you think about it. He was advocating for this back in the 70s.
Know.
When computers were these giant, mysterious machines that most people couldn't even access.
Exactly. He was challenging the status quo, pushing back against this idea of computers as just for the elite.
Hmm.
He even compares working with computers to show business and writing,
Oh, wow.
arguing that it's an art form in itself.
So he wasn't just interested in the technical side of things.
They're all
He saw computers as a way to change the way we think, learn, and create.
precisely.
Hmm.
And one of his biggest ideas, which has absolutely shaped the world we live in today, is this concept of hypertext.
Okay.
Nonlinear interconnected writing and information sharing.
Oh.
He basically envisioned the web decades before it actually happened.
Hold on. He predicted the web back in 1974.
It's incredible, isn't it?
That's mind-blowing.
It really is. And he didn't just stop at text either.
Oh, wow.
Nelson had visionary ideas about interactive media, computer graphics, and user-friendly interfaces.
He was thinking about all of this back then.
He even coined the term Fantix to describe the design of intuitive, user-focused interfaces. Think about how we interact with computers today. Touch screens, apps, intuitive design.
Yeah.
Nelson was already thinking about this stuff decades ago.
It's like he was peeking into the future.
Right.
But while he was dreaming up these incredible possibilities,
Yeah.
what was the actual tech scene like in the 70s?
Well, it was a very different world.
I can imagine.
Computers were still largely mysterious and intimidating to most people.
Yeah.
Think clunky machines, punch cards, and
Yeah.
text-based terminals.
Yeah.
The cutting-edge tech at the time included things like the Altair 8800.
The Altair 8800,
Right.
what was it?
The Altair is considered one of the first true personal computers. It was a kit computer, meaning you had to assemble it yourself.
Oh,
It was basically a box with switches and lights.
really?
No keyboard, no monitor. You had to program it by flipping switches,
What?
literally entering binary code by hand.
Whoa. Talk about a steep learning curve.
It was definitely for the tech-savvy hobbyist,
Yeah.
but for someone like Nelson, who saw computers as creative tools, this was a revelation.
Okay.
It meant that computing was no longer the exclusive domain of big institutions.
Interesting.
Anyone with enough passion and technical know-how could now have their own computer.
So even in its primitive form,
Right.
the Altair represented this huge leap towards making computers more accessible.
Exactly. It captured the imagination of a generation of computer enthusiasts, people who saw the potential of personal computing, even if it seemed a bit clunky at the time.
And this was all happening while Nelson was writing Computer Lib Dream Machines.
Yes, and it's fascinating to see how the limited technology of the time fueled his imagination.
Okay.
He wasn't constrained by what was currently possible. He was dreaming of what could be possible.
So he wasn't just writing about existing computers. He was imagining the future of computing.
Absolutely. He even talks about the PDP-11, which was a mini-computer,
Okay.
a step up from the Altair in terms of power and capabilities.
Uh-huh.
While it was mostly used in research labs and universities, Nelson saw its potential for more creative applications.
Interesting.
He describes how the PDP-11 could be used for things like computer graphics, music synthesis, and even interactive storytelling, things we take for granted today.
He was already thinking about computers as tools for artistic expression, not just scientific calculation.
Yes, and that's a key part of his message.
Yeah.
He wanted to break down the barriers between art, science, and technology, believing that they could all inform and enrich each other.
Yeah.
He saw computers as a canvas for human creativity, not just cold calculating machines.
This is all starting to paint a picture of Nelson as this visionary rebel,
Yeah,
pushing against the limitations of his time and imagining this incredible future for computers.
that's a great way to put it. And it's important to remember that he wasn't just advocating for more computers.
Right.
He was advocating for different computers.
Okay.
Computers that were designed with human needs and creative potential in mind.
So not just more processing power,
Right.
but more user-friendliness, more accessibility, more creative possibilities.
Exactly. He wanted to liberate computers from the clutches of bureaucracy and unleash their potential to empower individuals. And that's where his critique of the computer establishment comes in.
Okay, let's unpack that. Who or what was the computer establishment and what was Nelson's beef with them?
Well, in the 70s, the computer world was dominated by big corporations like IBM,
Right.
which controlled most of the hardware and software.
Uh-huh.
Nelson saw these companies as gatekeepers, limiting access to computing and dictating how it was used. He was especially critical of what he called cyber crud.
Cybercred, that sounds unpleasant.
It was his term for overly complicated and user-unfriendly computer systems.
Right.
He believed that technology should be designed to empower people, not alienate them.
Yeah.
He advocated for simpler, more accessible computer languages and interfaces, arguing that everyone should be able to use computers without needing a PhD in computer science.
So he was fighting for the user, for the everyday person who just wanted to use a computer without having to wrestle with complex code or confusing interfaces.
Precisely, he believed that computers should be tools for everyone,
Yeah.
not just for technical elites.
Yeah.
And he wasn't afraid to call out the big corporations who were making computing more difficult than it needed to be.
This is really resonating with me. I mean, even today, we still struggle with overly complicated software
I know, it's true.
and user interfaces that seem designed to frustrate us.
Yeah.
It's like Nelson's battle against cybercred is still going on.
It absolutely is, and that's why his work is still so relevant today. He was fighting for a vision of computing that is human-centered, accessible, and empowering. He wanted computers to be tools for liberation, not for control.
It sounds like he was way ahead of his time in recognizing the potential downsides of technology, even while he was championing its potential for good.
He was definitely a complex thinker, able to hold both the positive and negative possibilities of computing in his mind at the same time.
Right.
And that's what makes his work so thought-provoking.
Yeah.
He wasn't just a tech enthusiast. He was a philosopher, a social critic, and a visionary who saw both the potential and the pitfalls of the digital world we were creating.
This has been an incredible overview of Nelson's ideas.
Thank you.
We've talked about his vision for computers as tools for creativity and freedom,
Yeah.
his concept of hypertext,
Mm-hmm.
the tech landscape of the 70s, and his critique of the computer establishment.
Right.
But he didn't just criticize.
No.
He also had specific examples of systems he thought were doing things right.
Absolutely. He was a big fan of the Plato system developed at the University of Illinois.
Okay.
It was one of the first large-scale computer-aided instruction systems with hundreds of terminals connected to a central mainframe.
Wow.
Nelson was really impressed by Plato's interactivity, its graphics capabilities, and its user-friendliness.
So this was back in the 70s, and they already had something like online learning.
In a way, yes, but it was much more than that.
Okay.
Plato had this vibrant community of users who were creating educational materials, writing games, and even composing music.
Oh, wow.
It was a real hotbed of innovation, and Nelson saw it as a model for how computers could be used to foster creativity and collaboration.
It's amazing to think that kind of community was flourishing around computers back then. Really challenges the stereotype of the lone computer geek in the basement.
Absolutely. Nelson was a huge advocate for collaboration and the sharing of ideas. He believed that computers could facilitate this kind of intellectual cross-pollination in ways that were never before possible.
And he wasn't just talking about educational settings, was he? He also saw potential for creative applications of this technology.
Right. He talks about the picture system, which was this groundbreaking 3D computer graphics software developed at Bell Labs. This was back in the late 60s. And they were already able to create and manipulate three-dimensional objects on a computer screen.
Wow, that's incredible for that era. What could they do with it?
Nelson describes how you could rotate zoom and even slice through these virtual objects exploring their structure and design from different angles. It was used for everything from designing cars and airplanes to creating architectural models and scientific visualizations.
So basically, it was a precursor to the CAD software we use today for design and engineering.
Exactly. The picture system was a powerful tool for visualizing complex data and designs, and Nelson saw it as a key example of how computers could augment human perception and understanding.
It's like he was always looking for ways to bridge the gap between the way computers work and the way our minds work.
That's a great observation. He even talks about this concept of phantic space, which he describes as the space and relationships sensed by a viewer of any medium.
Okay, break that down for me. What does he mean by phantic space?
He's essentially talking about the way we experience information and interact with it. He believed that designing computer interfaces was about creating compelling phantic spaces that would draw users in and make them feel like they were interacting with a real environment.
So it's not just about presenting information on a screen, it's about creating an experience that engages our senses and emotions.
Precisely. He was really interested in how computers could affect our senses and emotions, not just our intellects. It's almost like he was anticipating the immersive virtual reality experiences we have today.
It makes you wonder what he would think of modern VR headsets and the metaverse.
I'm sure he would have a lot to say about it. He was always pushing the boundaries of what was possible, imagining ways to make computers more engaging, intuitive, and even playful. But he was also keenly aware of the potential downsides of technology, wasn't he?
You're right, we touched on his warnings about data privacy and government surveillance earlier. It's chilling how prescient he was about those issues.
It really is. He was writing this long before the internet and social media became ubiquitous, yet he could already see how computers could be used for both good and evil.
He was sounding the alarm about the potential for technology to be used for surveillance and control, wasn't he?
He was. And he was also concerned about the potential for computers to exacerbate social inequalities. He warned that unless we were careful, technology could create a digital divide between the haves and have-nots.
It's almost like he was anticipating the whole debate about net neutrality and digital access that we're still having today.
He was definitely raising important questions about the role of technology in society, questions that are even more urgent today than they were back then.
So he was this incredible blend of techno-optimist and cautious realist. He saw the amazing potential of computers, but also recognized the potential dangers.
Exactly. And he believed it was our responsibility to shape the future of computing in a way that benefits humanity. He wasn't just a techie. He was a humanist who cared deeply about the impact of technology on society.
That really comes through in his writing. Okay, so we've covered Nelson's vision, the tech landscape of the 70s, his critique of the computer establishment, and some of the specific systems he found inspiring. But we haven't really talked about how he envisioned people actually using computers in this future he was imagining.
You're right. He had some very specific ideas about that. Remember, he was advocating for computers as tools for creativity and freedom. He saw them as a way to empower individuals to express themselves, share ideas, and connect with others in new ways.
So it wasn't just about processing data or automating tasks, it was about amplifying human potential.
Exactly. One of his key concepts was this idea of the thinker toy.
Thinker toy, what's that?
It was his vision for a conceptual tool that would allow people to manipulate and organize ideas with the aid of computers.
So like a digital mind map or a brainstorming tool.
That's a good analogy. He envisioned people using the thinker toy to connect and rearrange concepts visually, to explore different relationships between ideas, and to generate new insights.
That's fascinating. It sounds like he was trying to bridge the gap between the way computers work and the way our minds work.
Precisely, he believed that computers could help us think more clearly, more creatively, and more effectively. He saw them as tools for augmenting our cognitive abilities, not just for replacing them.
So not just artificial intelligence, but intelligence amplification.
Yes. He believed that computers could help us become better thinkers, better learners, and better communicators.
This is really making me think about how we use computers today. We often focus on the practical applications, email, social media, word processing, but we sometimes lose sight of the potential for computers to actually change the way we think and learn.
That's a great point, and I think Nelson would argue that we haven't fully realized the potential of computers to transform education, creativity, and even our understanding of ourselves.
It's like we've gotten so caught up in the technology itself that we've forgotten about the human potential it's meant to unlock.
I think that's a very insightful observation, and it brings us back to one of Nelson's core messages. Technology is a tool, and it's up to us to decide how we use it.
It's a powerful reminder that we have agency in shaping the digital world we inhabit.
Absolutely. We can choose to use technology in ways that empower us, connect us, and expand our understanding of the world, or we can let it control us, divide us, and limit our potential.
It's a choice we make every day, whether we're conscious of it or not.
And that's why Nelson's work is still so relevant today. He challenges us to think critically about our relationship with technology and to use it in ways that align with our values and aspirations.
So beyond all the technical details and visionary concepts, Computer LibDream Machines is ultimately a call to action.
It's a call to reclaim the power of technology and use it to create a world that's more equitable and more human.
It's inspiring to think about how much one person's vision can impact the world, but it's also a bit daunting. It makes you realize the responsibility we all have in shaping the future of technology.
It does, and I think that's one of the reasons why Computer LibDream Machines is such a powerful book.
Yeah.
It's not just a technical treatise or utopian fantasy.
Right.
It's a deeply personal reflection on the human side of computing.
We haven't talked much about that aspect of the book, the personal stories and anecdotes that Nelson shared.
Oh, he weaves in these wonderful glimpses into the early days of computing.
Yeah.
The people, the culture, the quirky ways they use this new technology.
What are some of the stories that stood out to you?
Well, he talks about programmers who would spend hours crafting elegant code,
Oh, wow.
hackers who would find creative ways to circumvent security measures, and artists who would use computers to create groundbreaking visual and musical experiences.
It sounds like a really eclectic and passionate community driven by a shared sense of exploration and possibility.
It was, and Nelson celebrates that diversity.
Mm.
He saw computing as a field that could attract people from all walks of life. Artists, writers, scientists, engineers.
That's something I love about the tech world today, that it brings together people from so many different backgrounds and disciplines.
It's one of the things that makes it so dynamic and innovative.
Yeah.
And Nelson recognized that early on. He believed that this cross-pollination of ideas was essential for the healthy development of the field.
It's like he understood that technology is ultimately a human endeavor. It's created by people, for people, and it needs to reflect that human element if it's going to truly benefit society.
Exactly. And that brings us back to the core message of Computer LibDream Machines.
Okay.
It's a call to reclaim the power of technology and use it to create a world that's more equitable and more human.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the final provocative thought you want to leave our listeners with?
Imagine a world where Nelson's vision of hypertext and interconnected information had been fully realized decades earlier. How would our relationship with information knowledge and each other be different today?
That's a really thought-provoking question. It makes you wonder how different the world might be if we had embraced Nelson's ideas sooner.
It does, but it also reminds us that it's never too late to start shaping the future of technology in a way that aligns with our values. Nelson's book is a call to action, an invitation to imagine a better digital world and then work to create it.
I love that. And for all of you listening, if this deep dive has piqued your interest, I highly encourage you to check out Computer LibDream Machines for yourself. It's a challenging but rewarding read that will make you think differently about the power and potential of technology.
It's a book that will stay with you long after you finish reading it.
Well said. Until next time, happy diving.